What can the Secretary of State tell me that they will continue to support this very, very important society, and what more can they do to support adults who have this condition?
Well, the Honourable Gentleman will know that we at the Department of Health continue to support the voluntary sector considerably through Section 64 funding and related support through the Department. If he wishes to write to me about the specific circumstances of the British Rail Society, I'll be glad.
To High Speed 2, a national high-speed rail network. With the exception of High Speed 1, a 68-mile stretch of line, it will be the first major national railway line to be built in Britain since the Grand Central Line opened to passengers in 1899. I would like to provide members with further detail of the substance and rationale for my decisions. I weighed up the evidence after one of the largest public consultations in our history. We wrote to more than 172,000 people living or working near the proposed line from London to the West Midlands, visited communities along the 140-mile route, and held 41 days of roadshows attended by almost 30,000 people over the 5-month consultation period. Almost 55,000 responses were received from individuals, businesses and organisations across the country, representing a wide spectrum of views, many of which were strongly expressed both in favour and against high-speed rail, views that I've carefully considered in making my decisions. Since becoming Secretary of State for Transport, I've examined all of the available evidence, including the work undertaken by my right honourable friend, the member for Runnymede and Weybridge, and the previous Labour administration in developing the consultation proposals, the evidence submitted during the consultation, and the further work undertaken by my department and HS2 Limited. My decision had to take in the full environmental impact of HS2, but also the benefits of HS2 to our economy, to jobs, to competitiveness, not just today, but to decades in the future. I also had to be clear about the implications of not investing in high-speed rail, how that would affect our leading cities, and how that would affect the road network and aviation. Generating growth and helping people to get back to work, supporting Britain's companies and wealth creators so that they can compete and win in the global marketplace. These are the things at the top of this government's priority list. And from day one in office, the coalition government has had a laser focus on investing in and modernising our country's transport infrastructure with unprecedented levels of investment. Now, when it came to HS2, I could have made the easy choice. I could have gone for the short-term option, rely on a patch and mend approach, and leave our railway networks overstretched, overburdened, and less resilient. But let's be clear, the price for that would have been paid in lost business, lower growth, fewer jobs, and more miseries for passengers on a network that could not cope with the capacity. We would have failed future generations who are depending on us to create the prosperous country they want to live in. Good government is about acting in the longer-term national interest. It's about taking decisions, however difficult, to improve people's quality of life and the country's economic prospects, not just for the next 4 or 5 years, but for the next 4 or 5 decades. Our Victorian predecessors would have had immense pride to see their railways providing massive benefit today, over 100 years later. But as a result of today's announcement, the railway revolution they started is happening again. We are ready for a new chapter in Britain's transport history, one that's designed to boost our economy and our country, just as the first coming of the railways, all the motorways, did for previous generations. That's why I've given the green light to HS2. In spite of the challenges of rising demand, our railways have been a huge success since privatisation. Passenger demand is growing year on year, particularly in the intercity market. But I also recognise that further rounds of upgrades to our major north-south lines, even if they offer apparently good value for money, can only provide a short-term fix, one that is incapable of meeting the long-term challenge. In truth, they could only add limited further capacity. They cannot offer the step change in performance that passengers wish and need to see. What's more, upgrades would consign rail passengers and the vitally important rail freight industry to years, if not decades, of future engineering disruption, delay and unreliability, something users of the West Coast Main Line will remember only too well. The question's therefore not do we build new lines, it's rather what type of line should we build? And when you weigh up the economic and social rewards, there is only one answer: high-speed rail. A high-speed line will deliver £6.2 billion more of benefits to the country than a line running at conventional speed, at an extra cost of only £1.4 billion. So by slashing journey times, as well as providing the step change in rail capacity that we need to keep the country moving, it will give a return on the additional investment of more than 4 to 1. A modern, reliable and fast service between our major cities and international gateways, befitting the 21st century, will transform the way we travel and promote Britain's economic and social prosperity. HS2 will be built in 2 phases to ensure delivery of its benefits at the earliest possible opportunity. Phase 1 will link London to the West Midlands, plus a direct connection to the continent through the Channel Tunnel via High Speed 1. Even in the first phase, cities and towns off the HS2 network like Stockport, Warrington, Liverpool, Preston and Glasgow will be served by trains able to use both HS2 and intercity lines, saving over half an hour on journeys to London. Phase 2 will provide onward legs to Manchester and Leeds, with intermediate stations in the East Midlands and South Yorkshire, plus a direct connection to our international hub, Heathrow Airport. And HS2 will mean very substantial time savings between Britain's cities, reducing a Birmingham to Leeds journey from 2 hours to just 57 minutes, Manchester to London from 2 hours 8 minutes to only 1 hour 8 minutes. Edinburgh and Glasgow will benefit from a 3.5 hour journey time from London, encouraging modal shift from short-haul flights to high-speed rail. In delivering HS2, I look forward to working with the Scottish Government and others to identify and evaluate options for developing the high-speed network and further reducing journey times. However, I wanted to emphasise to the House that in making my decisions, I've been particularly mindful of our responsibility to safeguard the countryside and its wildlife and to protect local communities as far as possible. I've worked hard to look at more tunnelling, to lower the route into cutting to reduce noise and visibility, and to move the route away for homes wherever viable. I've looked hard at how we can better protect our landscape, our wildlife and our heritage. And for this reason, my engineers have carefully re-examined the route in light of all of the evidence, and I can therefore announce a package of alterations which I believe will significantly reduce this railway's impact. The improvements include a longer, continuous tunnel under the Chilterns from Little Missenden to the M25, and a new 2.75 mile bored tunnel under the Northolt corridor to avoid major works to the Chiltern line and impacts on local communities in the Ruislip area. Of the 13 miles through the Chilterns area of outstanding natural beauty, less than 2 miles will be at or above the surface. The rest will be in deep cutting or tunnel. There will also be a longer green tunnel past Chipping Warden and Aston Le Walls, another longer green tunnel to reduce impacts around Wendover, as well as an extension to the green tunnel at South Heath. There will also be a green tunnel past Greatworth. These are just a few of the suite of improvements which are detailed in full in the command paper that I presented to the House this morning. The changes will bring significant benefits to communities and the environment compared to the consultation route. There will be a more than a 50% increase in tunnel or green tunnel, now totalling around 22.5 miles. In addition, around 56.5 miles will be partially or totally hidden in cutting as a key way of helping reduce noise in neighbouring communities. There will be 10 miles less of this track on viaduct or embankment. In all, this means that around 79 miles, in other words more than half of the route, will be mitigated by tunnel or cutting. The revised tunnel alignment through the Chilterns will avoid an important water aquifer, significantly reducing impacts on water. See, Mr. Speaker, I'm always happy to listen to people when they see a better way of doing things. There will also be a reduction on the impacts on ancient woodlands and heritage sites. Communities affected will benefit from the changes, with a near 50% reduction in the number of dwellings at risk of land take, and the number of households experiencing noticeably increased noise levels reducing by a third, to just over 3,000 properties. I've always been very clear in my mind, though, that whatever the mitigation measures, there can be little comfort in knowing that the country will benefit enormously from HS2 when it's your house or your business that has to be knocked down to make way for it. The meeting that I had with MPs earlier last year allowed many of those representing communities along the proposed route to communicate to me directly the views of their constituents. So to help people, we will bring in a package of compensation measures which are over and above what affected homeowners are already entitled to under law. These include a streamlined purchase system to simplify the statutory blight process for property owners, a sale and rent back scheme to give homeowners within the safeguarded area more flexibility, a streamlined small claims scheme for any construction damage, and a package of measures to reinforce confidence in properties above tunnels. Homeowners will be offered before and after surveys, a thorough assessment of the impact of similar tunnels, an explanation of the measures that will be taken to prevent perceptible vibration impacts, financial compensation for the compulsory purchase of subsoil, and a legally binding promise that HS2 will be permanently responsible for resolving any related settlement or subsidence issues. There will also be a refreshed hardship-based property purchase scheme. And finally, we will work constructively and in a structured way with local authorities along the line of route to minimise the negative consequences of HS2 and maximise the benefits. Having made the decision to press on with HS2, my intention is to drive it forward as fast as is practicable so that we can gain from its benefits as early as possible and to end the unwelcome uncertainty for those affected. A key part of this will, of course, be to engage fully and actively with organisations, communities and individuals along the whole route of the Y network. People presented legitimate concerns in the consultation, and even though we have made significant improvements, I am keen to work hard with local communities so that as many concerns as possible are properly addressed. I've instructed HS2 Limited to undertake a range of activities to prepare for and deliver both phases of the network. It is my intention to introduce a hybrid bill to the House before the end of 2013, including a detailed environmental impact assessment to provide the necessary powers to construct and operate the line from London to Birmingham. I've instructed HS2 Limited to deliver this project at pace, but within milestones that will stand the test of time and with regular reporting to me on progress. The Major Projects Authority, which this government launched last March to improve the performance of major government projects in delivering on time and in budget, will provide critical support and oversight. This spring, we will consult on the draft directions for safeguarding the proposed route from London to the West Midlands, as well as separately consulting on detailed compensation proposals. I aim to bring final safeguarding directions and an agreed compensation policy into effect later in the year. In March this year, HS2 Limited will advise me on the route and station options to Manchester and Leeds. And in autumn 2012, we will start an engagement programme on a preferred route to discuss local views. I warmly welcome the political consensus on HS2 on the basis that it will help ensure that the planning and construction of this transformational scheme is carried through to completion. HS2 matters to the long-term success and prosperity of the whole of Britain. It will help to create jobs, support growth and regenerate our regions. It will better connect communities and improve people's opportunities, and with its potential to attract people and freight onto trains and away from long-haul distance road journeys and short-haul flying, combined with the increased decarbonisation of the grid, HS2 is an important part of our transport system's low-carbon future. Mr. Speaker, Britain has faced such challenges before. The Victorian railway pioneers had the vision to build a rail network which has promoted growth and created jobs for more than a century. Those innovators transformed this country's fortunes. Our industries flourished, our exports multiplied, and our economy grew wealthy. And half a century later, another generation had the vision to start building the motorway network. Post-war planners developed the motorways, connecting our major cities and transforming the capacity of our road network. Half a century on again, we now need to do for our Victorian railway what our previous generations did for our road network. The time has come again to seize the moment, to be ambitious, and to show the world that this is a can-do country. The lesson from history and the lessons from our global competitors is that no matter how hard times are, we cannot stop planning for the future or investing in our infrastructure if we want Britain to flourish. HS2 will be the backbone of a new transport system for the 21st century, offering the vital capacity that we need to compete and grow as a country. It will transform the economic shape and balance of our country, linking our major cities to a level previous generations could only dream of. By backing HS2, this government is backing Britain, and I commend this statement to the House.